All right, everybody, welcome back. Happy Monday. By the way, happy January 6th. And I say happy January 6th because we have a very, very special interview that's a separate piece of content. It's with the January 6th shaman, Jacob Chansley. Guys, make sure you see that, folks. Sign up, subscribe, you'll get all that stuff. He goes through, we did 28 minutes with him, and he went through Nancy Pelosi. I asked him about Liz Cheney earning that Medal of Honor from Biden. He rips into Pelosi. He rips into Liz Cheney. He rips into FBI Director Christopher Wray. I asked him, were there FBI human assets at January 6th? He had some really, really fascinating things to say. Asked him to talk to me about those Capitol Police that were walking you around that Tucker famously called tour guides. Really fascinating interview with a guy who's extremely intelligent. You got to check that out. It's another piece of content. But in the meantime, happy January 6th. Earlier today, Kamala Harris had the honor of confirming Donald Trump's presidential victory and her own loss, by the way. The irony is incredible. Her, old Joe, and the rest of the rabid ruling class really thought they had that one in the bag 2024, didn't they? These people somehow convinced themselves that Kamala Harris was their knight in shining armor, so to speak, who would ultimately allow the Democrats to retain their chokehold on this country. We are so grateful. They were so very wrong. We heard plenty about what our vice president has been up to since her embarrassment on Election Day. There have been clips and images of a very disheveled Kamala Harris, someone who clearly may have been hitting the bottle about as hard as humanly possible. She looks really, really bad these days. The same cannot be said about her gesticulating running mate, old tampon Timmy Walz. Has anyone heard a freaking word from this guy? What has he been up to? Presumably, he returned back to the state he destroyed as governor, Minnesota, and got right back to work, making people's lives worse again. It wasn't until this morning that I saw a Tim Walz headline detailing a new Minnesota law that the governor had just signed into law, a bill signed into law, to provide health care for, wait for it, the deranged transgender community.
Every major medical association in the United States considers gender-affirming care as treatment for gender dysphoria to be medically necessary, life-saving health care.
Representative Lee Finke drafted this bill from personal experience.
I spent many years battling with insurance companies to get coverage for various pieces of my own gender-affirming care in my own transition.
Finke explained this law will lift a burden people in the trans community often carry.
It's also been such a joy to see the impact of folks being able to have affirming care that really sees them, hears them, really supports who they are.
Also in this bill is a requirement for health plans to cover abortions and abortion-related services.
Yes, there you have it. Nobody loves the transgender community more than tampon Timmy Walz. And we call him tampon Timmy Walz because he signed a bill in Minnesota to put tampons in boys' restrooms in high schools. In fact, I would say those transgenders are tampon Timmy's favorite demographic, maybe only second to the communists in China he's so indebted to. This is how the Democratic Party operates. Instead of throwing out their garbage, jettison their flotsam, they recycle it. Tim Walz is a great example of this. He was a garbage governor who, out of absolutely nowhere, took a shot at becoming the next vice president. That bid failed, as we now know, and weeks later, he's right back home in Minnesota, wrecking the place, making ridiculous rules for ridiculous people. As always, I got plenty more to discuss, so let's react. Well, welcome to what's left of America in 2025 from Bidenomics and such, where almost everything looks like it could be a parody. Take a look at the sights and scenes of the Golden Globe Awards, and I swear we thought this was completely fake. Couldn't believe this. You'll never, ever, ever be able to convince me that this stuff is normal. Look at this. I don't even know what to call it. He, she, what, they? Children used to play dress up, not grown men. Clips like this leave me with so many questions. Is this guy cross-dressing for fun? Does he think he's a woman? Is he aware of the massive beard that covers his face and the fact that he did absolutely nothing at all to disguise his very masculine physical traits? Genuinely, what the hell's going on here, folks? And why is this manic behavior being embraced? As some members of society drift further into the depths of insanity, others are coming back to earth. Jeff Bezos. Well, guess what? Yep, he went to Mar-a-Lago the other day. We told you about that. And guess what he's doing? He's cozying up to President-elect Donald Trump and Melania. He just signed off on a Melania Trump Amazon Prime documentary. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why he would do such a thing. Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, who absolutely hated Trump for 4 years. If you can't beat him, join him, I guess. Jeff Bezos is a money man, and there was no chance that he was going to miss out on riding that beautiful red wave of, call it a green wave, all the way to the bank. In other news, look at this absolutely insane headline from the New York Post. Quoting, LGBTQ liberals start arming themselves over baseless fear of being placed in concentration camps. Can you imagine that? I'd love to know who's responsible for starting such a baseless and insane rumor. Concentration camps just for being gay? What type of world do these folks think we live in? No one's ever said it. Trump certainly never said it. They're arming themselves? What for? This is exactly how misinformation starts. Trump has absolutely nothing to do with this rumor. Yet, a group of Trump-hating liberals are now arming up because they genuinely think that anyone gives a damn about how they live their life. We could care less. I've always said this, folks. I'm a libertarian. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care how you want to dress. Just keep your intimate decisions to yourself. And please, for the love of God, stay away from our schools and our children. They don't want to. They want to go on the Golden Globes. They want to go everywhere and talk to your kids. Kids aspire to be football players and actors and celebrities. And you got that clown with a full beard, jacked up in a dress. Speaking of nonsense from the left, could you believe that there's still some people out there who wholeheartedly think that Trump is not coming back to the White House later this month? Listen to this one.
Trump coming out and calling for a rally with his supporters January 19th, one day before the inauguration. Why would you need to do that the day before you are supposedly being inaugurated the 47th president? He wants those people here in town for when it becomes even more evident than it already is that under 14th Amendment Section 3, he cannot be sworn in. He's done. He knows it. He's known it for a while. Only thing is, they're ready for you this time, dude.
So let me explain what this clown's talking about. There's this thing running around the internet now where some people say Trump can't be elected or sworn in because he's an insurrectionist. Meanwhile, he's never been charged with insurrection. He's never been found guilty of insurrection. But some of these liberal clowns think, oh, Trump's not going to be sworn in. They're not going to let him swear him in for insurrection. And so this clown thinks that Trump is holding a rally on January 19th, interestingly enough, to bring people to D.C. He wants people there for his inauguration, not because he thinks he's going to get tossed out of the White House and he wants people there, I don't know, to storm the Capitol again. I have no idea what these liberal idiots are thinking. But that guy, anyway, didn't look like your typical Kamala Harris loyalist. I mean, his hair was gray, not green. He wasn't screaming or kicking anyone in public yet. His words make absolutely no sense, just like the rest of them. These people sincerely need to move on for their own health. Kamala's 60 seconds of relevance came and left, and she will do the same thing in 2 short weeks. Okay, folks, our great sponsor. We love Goya Foods. In fact, I was at the supermarket the other day, and my wife said, buy some hearts of palms for your salad. And so I'm looking, there's this Vigo can. I looked at Goya. And I grabbed for the Goya. You know why? Because Goya, number one, they're a sponsor of ours, obviously, but also because Goya Foods are amazing. Bobby Donway puts the best ingredients, the best produce in his foods, bar none. Anyway, in 2021, Goya launched Goya Cares, a global initiative to protect children and educate children on mental health. Goya Cares is providing schools and community centers with a preventative education curriculum and a free assembly that includes the viewing of the movie Goya Cares Press Pause. Press Pause is intended to raise awareness regarding mental health issues, abuse, and bullying among children, teens, and in our communities. Press Pause is an educational film following 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez as she navigates adolescence, self-doubt, and an abusive relationship amid her parents' turbulent divorce, set within the cultural context of her Hispanic family. The film explores her discomfort with unwanted attention from her uncle and the pressures of maintaining a facade of perfection in high school. It introduces the Press Pause campaign promoting kindness and advocacy, highlighted by Sophia leaving a note saying, "You matter," for a bullied peer. The film encourages open family communication about mental health and culminates in Sophia's transformative realization of her right to seek help. Through the power of empathy and small acts of kindness, Press Pause displays the importance of being proactive in supporting your own community and underscores the critical importance of self-advocacy. All right, folks, time for today's Truth Bomb. All righty, folks. Truth Bomb today. Again, this is a really, really good one. Check this out. Justin Trudeau, the guy from Canada. The only thing wrong with Canadians, whatever. Anyway, Justin Trudeau, listen to this.
So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process.
Well, that's right. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just announced today that he will be resigning. He escapes his role amid absolute chaos, opting to take the Joe Biden route and quit on his people instead of seeing the job through. And I have little thoughts on this. It was time for him to go. When Trump won, Trump basically sent a message around the world that the bullshit wokeness is done. Don't forget, Justin Trudeau. Remember, he pulled truckers' ability to earn a living because they wouldn't get vaccinated. Their vaccine mandates, and then they trampled over people who were supporting the truckers with horses. Who can forget this? Justin Trudeau took a knee in June of 2020. Why? To support BLM for the George Floyd Summer of Love, absolute destruction going on around the country and the world, frankly. And then there was this. Justin Trudeau got caught on a hot mic mocking President Trump with Trudeau. And also, let's not forget, Justin Trudeau loves China. Justin Trudeau loves socialism. Justin Trudeau ran Canada into the ground, the good little globalist soldier. He ran to Mar-a-Lago to save face over tariffs. Remember that? And Trump said, guess what? I'm going to make you the 51st state, Canada. I think Justin Trudeau left Canada before he was going to be named, not prime minister, but governor of the state of Canada, of the great states of the United States. Truth bomb, folks. So when you think about some of the worst people in this world right now, well, who do you picture? Maybe you picture the likes of that evil piece of shit who mowed down dozens of innocent people in the name of Islam, in the name of a terrorist organization. Maybe you picture, I don't know, a guy like Luigi Mangione, the killer of a father, a husband, and the United Healthcare CEO. Remember that freak? Or maybe you picture the illegal migrant who raped and murdered Laken Riley. Those people are truly evil. They're murderers. They're intent on hurting innocent people. Those are bad people. They're evil, and they've no place in our society. But the worst people, the worst evil people in our world right now are actually the ones pulling the strings. They're the ones changing our society. They're the ones giving those evil people the ability and the desire and the, pedestal to do what they want to do. They're the ones who are pulling the strings are the ones who are creating policies that make those acts of evil possible. They're the ones opening the doors for these clowns, these idiots, these morons. They're the ones who pull the strings behind the scenes, and their purse strings are the perpetrators of some of the worst acts we've ever seen. I'm getting to something here. And some of the people were honored, these people were honored by Joe Biden at the White House this past weekend, who gave them the highest possible civilian honor. Let's get into it. Today, on January 6th, Donald Trump's 47th presidency is certified. Democrats are weeping today. But make no mistake about it. Also today, Democrats are planning on how to impede the people's mandate, the MAGA mandate that nearly 78 million Americans voted for, and the whole world is now behind. Today also marks the 4-year anniversary of Nancy Pelosi's staged day of infamy.
I didn't think that I was just going to be killed. I thought other things were going to happen to me as well.
So what sounds like what you're telling me right now is that you didn't only think that you were going to die, you thought you were going to be raped.
Yeah, I thought I was.
Yeah, that's poor little AOC, almost weeping. She thought she was going to get raped on January 6th. Well, it'd been interesting because she wasn't even in the freaking building. She wasn't in the Capitol. She was in her office across the street, and that's a good 200 yards away. I know, I've been there. On January 6th, 4 years ago today, Democrats created their own version of a reality, much like AOC did when she talks about feeling threatened by events that took place blocks away from where she actually was. Democrats also knew that there was every single reason in the world for Americans to question the validity of that election. COVID created new voting rules this country hadn't seen before. Remember, you could never vote mail-in ballots unless you absolutely had to. You had to find an exception. All of a sudden, mailing in a ballot became the norm because of COVID. Joe Biden hardly seen on the campaign trail at all. What was that all about? Somehow, though, he garnered 81 million votes, far more than his Democrat predecessor, the very popular Barack Obama, who had a record of 69 million votes before old feeble Joe from the basement got 81 million. The American people felt frustrated. They felt suspicious of the election process, and rightly so. Our 45th president stood at the Capitol and told a frustrated American crowd that he understood their feelings and told them to protest peacefully. Listen.
Know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
So during the rally, as he's concluding, Trump says, go over there and peacefully and patriotically protest. I mean, it's our right. It's in the Constitution. The First Amendment to the Constitution says we have a right to peacefully protest. And Trump cites the Constitution and says, go peacefully and patriotically protest what you don't believe in, what you think what happened, what you thought was wrong. And so some people went over there and got out of hand. So Trump is not to blame. Then he comes out, I don't know, 45 minutes later and says, we have to have peace. And that second part of that video is the part they never, ever want Americans to see. They conveniently leave that out. The call for peace, for being peaceful, despite being so very frustrated himself and angry himself. But they took President Trump, they took him down. They took down his Twitter account before Americans could see that video and never, ever gave him credit with having said that. they never got to see his tweet saying, quote, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and of our great men and women in blue. Thank you." It's Trump's words. But they pulled that down. Because the difference is that despite the fact that President Trump and all of his supporters felt so very slighted, felt like the system was tampered with and worked against them, President Trump has never wavered from America first, from loving his country first and foremost. Make America great again, America first policies. Despite the fact that our president and his supporters had the lawful right in the Constitution, First Amendment, to question that election, much like Democrats have done again and again and again, in particular when Trump beat Hillary Clinton back in 2016. They used that day to claim Donald Trump was an insurrectionist, which is abjectly false. We've seen the videos now. We've seen the video released by Speaker Mike Johnson. No violence, no chaos. People walking through the Capitol, as you see here. And again, we have another piece of content up on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere, with the January 6th shaman, Jacob Chansley. We did 26 minutes with him. He narrates what was going on inside the Capitol, and we talk about a lot of things since then. So make sure you watch that one as well. And yes, of course, there were uncalled for actions that day, as Jacob said. He said some people didn't act right. But when you hear things like this, listen.
Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021.
That was Kamala Harris, the seated vice president, a year after the January 6th Capitol protests. Kamala Harris stood there and compared the events of January 6th to Pearl Harbor, an unprovoked attack by the Japanese, killing thousands of Americans, almost ruining our whole military, certainly our Navy. And then 9/11, I was freaking at 9/11, you idiot. 3,000 people died on 9/11. My friends died. No one died at the Capitol on January 6th. Ashley Babbitt is the only one who died at the Capitol on January 6th because she got shot when she was protesting. And then to hear one of the biggest liars and worst perpetrators of lies utter things like that on the eve of January 6th, like this.
That day when we peacefully transfer power, historically peacefully transfer power, is a real solemn occasion, I think, for the whole country. But it has another meaning now that we had this terrible, violent attack 4 years ago. For those of us that were there in the Capitol, it's going to be, I think, quite an emotional experience to be back in that environment on that day.
Another crybaby, another liberal, whiny-ass bitch crybaby. Because you see, those who drone on loudest about insurrections are the ones you actually have to worry about. They're the ones who lie to the American public and do anything and everything they can to try and keep power for themselves. And yet, we watch a sickening display of Joe Biden giving not one, but two of the most nefarious global characters the highest civilian honor. That's right. The proverbial masks are off, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Joe Biden and the whole cover-up gang thought it was a good idea to honor Benghazi Hillary, that captainess of treasonous behavior, along with Dr. Evil himself, the global menace to the world, one George Soros. I mean, what an inspiration to young women everywhere. Hillary Clinton is living proof that you, too, can become the Secretary of State. Let 4 Americans die on your watch in Benghazi and still receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. How moving. What difference does it make anyway? Am I right, Hill Shady?
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Oh, but fear not, women of the world. If you wipe your servers clean of classified emails after committing treason, and you publicly trash the woman who performed sexual acts on your husband in the president's office, in the Oval Office, you too can be honored by Joe Biden and Barack Obama and for the rest of the world to see.
Secretary, what advice do you have young women out there?
Just believe in your dreams and go as far as hard work and effort will take you.
Wow. Wow. Enough of Hillary? Yeah, me too. By the way, she looked terrible. Getting really old. Not to be outdone, though, because honoring one of the most corrupt and shittiest politician there ever was and two-time loser. Yep, not only that, just a little honorable mention right there. Joe Biden clearly puppeteered by the cover-up artists around him and one Barack Obama. Listen to this. Joe decided, F it, my approval rating has already cratered beyond all recognition. Why not just throw in the globalist towel and make it well known that I'm a good little globalist soldier? Nothing says I'm with the global evil elite like I'm also giving the highest civilian honor, American civilian honor, by the way, to George Soros. George Soros, folks, the guy who in 2006 said that, and I'm quoting Soros, the main obstacle to a stable and just world is the United States. Not Iran, not Russia, not China, not Islamist terrorist groups, not transnational criminal groups. The United States is the biggest threat to the world. The guy who in 2010 declared that China has a better functioning government than the United States. The guy who generously donated to groups that call on governments all over the world to sever or downgrade diplomatic ties and relations with Israel. The guy who's openly not a fan of national borders, not only that, not a fan of border enforcement, who says that anyone who protects their borders is an obstacle, that any form of nationalism is a menace to the world. Think about that. Think about that. We're all about nationalism here now with Trump. This guy has single-handedly helped to create the chaos we're seeing on our streets, thanks to mass migration, both into America and all over the Western world. The guy who bet against economies for profit and spent his own money electing criminal-protecting district attorneys. Hold on for a second. Let me explain that. George Soros is a multi-billionaire. He's worth several billions of dollars, and his little puppet kid, Alex Soros, who somehow is now sleeping with Huma Abedin, that used to be married to Anthony Weiner, the freak liberal left congressman in New York. It just gets, who also worked for Hillary Clinton. The incestuous behavior of these liberal freaks is amazing. Anyway, George Soros, he made his money by betting against a country's currency. He made his first big money. He's a Hungarian guy. He made his first big money betting against the British pound. He bet the British pound would go down. He started pushing the British pound down. This is really bad for an economy when your currency gets crushed. He got all his billionaire friends to push the pound down. And then they scooped up, made their profit. And Soros has all these billions of dollars. He did it with other countries as well. He pushes their currencies down. He buys them back at a cheaper price, makes the billions of dollars of profit. But then he used all this money to come over here and destabilize this country. He came over here and wants to bring down borders. He's giving hundreds of millions of dollars to causes that are really anti-American. District attorneys around this country are being flush with campaign donations from Soros, and these people are making a commitment to Soros to go soft on crime. Think about how destabilizing that is. This guy is an evil, evil human being. And somehow Joe Biden thinks give this guy our highest civilian honor? What is wrong with Biden? What is wrong with Obama? What is wrong with these leftist morons? Soros is a man who says that the obstacle to a just world is the United States. This man has infiltrated America, using his money to influence every corner of America to help lead its downfall. Currency manipulation, Black Lives Matter, big donor, social media trolling, the Democrat Party pays him off, the Clinton Foundation, lots of money for them, the ACLU, our colleges and universities, the legacy media. I think he bought 200 radio stations in America just before the election. Good idea, folks. Make no mistake about it. And ignore their attempts to distract us from the truth. Soros, this man is the upper echelon of evil looking to take down America first and foremost. Now, think about what it means that Joe Biden would so openly bestow the highest presidential honor to a civilian and to such an evil civilian. America-hating figures like him and Hillary Clinton. For all they say today on the anniversary of January 6th, those couple of hours are just a fleck of a dot compared to the damage perpetrated by the Biden presidency, by the Obama presidency. And then for Joe Biden to slap Americans in the face by giving the Presidential Medal of Freedom to globalists who crap all over the entire Western world and help facilitate the downfall of our society, our economy, our stability, really speaks volumes, doesn't it? Well, as you know, before we go, we like to show you a little something outrageous or funny, and we call this section the kicker. Well, here's a kicker that's not only funny, but literal. You'll see what I mean. Showing the NFL game where the Cowboys kicker boots one to the sideline, and it just levels a Cowboys cheerleader. If you're listening on radio, and they show a little bit of a close-up right here. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Anyway, so that if you thought that was funny. Speaking of Cowboys and NFL, if you stayed with us, folks, we started the show a couple weeks into the football season, the NFL season. I said, bet against, go back, go look at all our shows. Bet against every team, bet against the Giants and the Jets. Bet on every team that plays the Giants or the Jets. In 14 weeks since we started it, I think it's 14 weeks, the Giants won 2 games, the Jets won 3. So you were 2-12. You won 12, lost 2 with the Giants, and you won 11, lost 3 with the Jets. That is a massive win if you just did it. And also, as I said earlier, the shaman interview, the J6 shaman, Jacob Chansley, is up on social media. It's on social media, but it's also up on YouTube, Rumble, iTunes, Spotify, and everywhere else. Make sure you listen to that, especially on this day, the 4th anniversary of the peaceful protest that turned negative when the feds got involved. January 6, 2020. Speaks volumes. All right, folks. See you tomorrow.